Friends, in this video we're going to be talking about full frame versus APS-C, and we're going to take a little bit of a nuanced approach to it. I hope it's nuanced. Let me know in the comments below if you think I'm just stupid for even trying to address the subject, but let's get into it. Size, weight, image quality, dynamic range, ISO performance, cost, these are all things that are quoted as separating full frame and APS-C. Sounds to me a lot like the arguments between mirrorless and DSLR, but that's just an observation. Looking at what an event shooter's kit would cost to look at the matter a little bit of a different way than what we usually see. So one of my buddies just got married recently, and I was talking with the photographers before and during and all that, and they both used two bodies with two primes. They had 3 total lenses with them, but they used 2 primes. The first was a wide angle and the second was a portrait length lens. So between 2 bodies and 3 lenses, that's kind of the pattern that we're going to be following with this. Also had strange harnesses that looked less like camera straps and more like publicly appropriate BDSM gear. BDSM jokes are turning into quite a thing in these videos. Maybe I should reevaluate the kind of jokes that I'm making. Anyways, because of my astute use of a calculator, I can tell you that different kits cost different amount of money. Different amounts of money. There we go. Stick to primes for now. There should be appearing on the screen some rough numbers. These are subjective to what I consider to be best cited as equivalents. Those should also be appearing on the screen right now. I tried to be comprehensive, and you can see why I didn't want to say all of those things. It would have been a long time and a big pain. Really interesting though is this: if you assume, like you might be well within your rights to do, big assume though, that full frame image quality is 1.5 times better because it's 1.5 times bigger, price should be commensurate. It should be a commensurate increase in price to get that quality increase. But it's not. For example, when looking at Sony APS-C options, 1.5 times more than the average of those is actually more expensive than the lower end of a Sony full frame kit. The idea being that if full frame offers 1.5 times better image quality, you have to spend actually more than 1.5 times on APS-C in order to get equivalent performance. Basically it comes down to is that you'd have to buy full frame lens quality equivalents to bring your APS-C kit up to snuff, at which point you're no longer saving money by going APS-C. Buy Zeiss 2-it lenses as a full frame equivalent quality option. You could buy full frame lenses, or you could get into Fuji's lens offerings. No matter what though, you're going to have to spend as much or more to get equivalent performance out of APS-C as you would full frame. Oftentimes because you're having to buy those lenses, but sometimes more expensively for APS-C as you would for full frame. Actually, this is because of equivalence. So if you wanted an 85 on your APS-C, you'd have to get the same quality as the Sony FE mount 85mm f1.8 that is in many ways regarded as comparable to the Zeiss Batis 85 f1.8 that costs $600. You'd have to go out and spend $1,000 on the Zeiss 55 f1.8. So you're spending more money already. A wide angle equivalent instead of like a wide normal equivalent on APS-C, you could either go for the 28mm. In order to get the same resolving power as the 28mm on full frame, you'd either have to get the 28mm and then the 16mm adapter, which would nearly double the cost, or you'd have to spend $1,000 on a Zeiss 2 at 12mm or $1,400 on the Zeiss Batis 18 f2.8. About full frame is that it's typically speaking, way cheaper to get really high quality lenses at a greater discount, if you will, more cheaply than it would to buy their equivalents for APS-C, and when they even exist. Those offerings for APS-C don't even exist with Canon. You'd have to buy third-party full-frame lenses in order to keep your costs down and also get a wide, normal, and portrait length option. Point, why even bother using APS-C? Why not just go full frame? Unless you're going Fuji, it makes way more financial sense to go full frame out of Canon, Sony, and I'd imagine Nikon as well. The current argumentation that I'm using is solely for primes. Zooms are a totally different animal. Canon EF mount, Sigma made art series 18 to 35 and 50 to 100, both at f1.8, are very cost effective. On an MC11, you can use it for your Sony system as well. Those lenses offer better image quality with a cost equivalence built into that than you actually get out of their equivalents in full frame. Sony's native mount f4 zoom lens offerings are still yet more cost effective. However, they really don't stand up to the image quality out of Sigma's fantastic, sexy, sultry zooms. Very much for your time and for your attention. I hope I've helped you think in a little bit of a different way about this. Big subject. I'm not going to try to say one is better than the other. I think in terms of like cost effectiveness though, in value for money, that perhaps full frame is better, quote unquote. You know, you can't get a 50 mil equivalent that at f1.8 or f1.4 for an APS-C body for $125 like you can from Canon for full frame. You can't get an 85 mil f1.8 equivalent for APS-C outside of the aforementioned 50 f1.8. You know, it's like the real cost of all this is that these camera manufacturers aren't making really good APS-C lens offerings. Even Sony, that has a couple more native mount offerings like the 16, the 35, the 50, they don't really stand up in terms of optical performance to full frame options. So thank you very much for your time and for your attention. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one.